He gave us some of the most powerful voices in soul music, songs that made generations dance, love, and believe again. But behind that timeless sound, Eddie Levert carried a heartbreak deeper than any lyric could express. For decades, he stood strong on stage, even as life tore away the people he loved most. And now, at 83, the truth behind his quiet sorrow has come to light, and it changes everything we thought we knew about the man behind the microphone. To understand his strength, we have to go back, before the fame, before the tragedy, to a young boy in Canton, Ohio, who found hope in music long before he knew how much he would need it. Eddie Levert was born on June 16, 1942, in Bessemer, Alabama, a place where the sun was hot, the air was heavy, and dreams felt far away. His family didn't have much, but they had faith. When Eddie was a child, his parents moved north to Canton, Ohio, searching for better work and a safer life. It was there, in a small neighborhood filled with gospel and grit, that his story began. Eddie was shy at first, quiet, thoughtful, and deeply connected to sound. He found peace in the church choir, where his deep, soulful voice stunned everyone who heard it. Music came naturally, like breathing. His voice wasn't trained, it was born. But behind that gift was a boy who felt the world's weight early. Life in the 1950s wasn't easy, and his family worked hard just to get by. Still, every Sunday morning, Eddie sang with the kind of conviction that could make a room forget its pain. As a teenager, he fell in love with rhythm and blues, Sam Cooke, Ray Charles, and gospel harmonies that told stories of struggle and salvation. He and a few friends started singing together after school, calling themselves the Triumphs. Later, they became the Mascots, and eventually, the OJs. None of them could have imagined that those harmonies, born in dusty backyards and borrowed microphones, would one day define a generation. But even as success slowly called his name, Eddie's heart remained anchored in humility. He was raised to believe that talent meant responsibility, to honor God, to uplift others, and to never forget where you came from. His parents reminded him, "The gift isn't yours, it's borrowed." That lesson would follow him all his life. Those early days shaped more than his voice. They shaped his soul. The hardship, the faith, the struggle. It all became part of the sound that would make Eddie Levert's music so unmistakably human. You could hear his childhood in every note, the hope, the hunger, and the quiet promise that even pain could be turned into song. He didn't yet know it, but the music that lifted him up would one day be the very thing that helped him survive. By the late 1960s, Eddie Levert's voice was no longer just known in Ohio. It was echoing across America. The OJs had found their sound, and it was unlike anything the world had heard. Soulful, raw, and full of fire, their music spoke to the heart of a changing nation. When they teamed up with producers Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff at Philadelphia International Records, everything changed. The 1970s became their golden era. Love Train, Backstabbers, For the Love of Money, songs that became anthems of both joy and truth. They weren't just hits, they were reflections of life, struggle, and hope. And at the center of it all was Eddie, his powerful baritone carrying stories of love and survival that resonated with millions. From smoky clubs to sold-out arenas, the OJs climbed higher than they ever dreamed. But success came with a cost. Endless touring, sleepless nights, and the pressure to stay on top began to wear them down. Eddie's voice was strong, but his spirit was tired. He had become the face of a band that symbolized love and unity, even as his own life grew more complicated. He loved the stage, the electricity, the connection, but it was also where he hid. Behind every note, there was loneliness. Fame had taken him far from the quiet faith of his childhood. In interviews, he spoke about the grind of success. People see the glamour, but they don't see the pain. You give the world everything, and sometimes there's nothing left for yourself. Through it all, Eddie stayed grounded by his family. He poured his love into his children, especially his sons Gerald and Sean, who inherited his musical gift. Watching them sing brought him more joy than any award ever could. They weren't just his sons. They were his legacy, his pride, his proof that music could run through blood like faith. But as the applause grew louder, life began to whisper its warning. The road that had carried Eddie to greatness would soon test him in ways that no stage could prepare him for. For all the joy Eddie Levert brought into the world, nothing could prepare him for the sorrow that was waiting ahead. He had spent his life singing about love, heartbreak, and endurance. But when tragedy came, even music couldn't heal the silence it left behind. In 2006, Eddie's world shattered. His eldest son, Gerald Levert, his pride, his partner, his best friend, was gone. The news hit like thunder. Gerald, who had carved out his own legendary career as a singer, songwriter, and producer, had passed away suddenly at just 40 years old. To Eddie, it didn't feel real. They had shared stages, laughter, and dreams. And now, all of it was gone in an instant. He said later, "When Gerald died, I lost a part of myself. I didn't just lose my son. I lost my reason." The pain was unbearable, yet Eddie stood at his funeral and sang through tears, a father saying goodbye the only way he knew how. Every note broke him, but he refused to let his son's light fade. Fans wept as the man who had comforted them for decades tried to comfort himself through song. But the heartbreak wasn't over. Just 2 years later, in 2008, tragedy struck again when Eddie's younger son, Sean Levert, also passed away unexpectedly. 2 sons, gone within 2 years. The world saw a legend mourning, but no one could understand the weight of a father who had outlived both of his children. The grief nearly destroyed him. For months, Eddie couldn't perform. The music that once gave him life now only reminded him of loss. He admitted, "There were days I didn't want to live." The stage used to be my home, but after losing them, it felt empty. His wife, his faith, and the love of his fans became the only things that held him together. Slowly, through prayer and purpose, he began to sing again, not for fame, but for survival. Each concert became a tribute, each song a conversation with his sons. The audience heard soul. Eddie felt sorrow. But somehow, he kept going, because deep down, he believed that love, like music, never dies. It only changes form. When the storms of grief finally quieted, Eddie Levert was left standing in the soft echo of everything he had lost, and everything he still had. The world saw his pain, but few realized the strength it took to rise from it. Slowly, the man who had once sung of heartbreak began to live those words in a new way, through faith, gratitude, and love. Music became his bridge between heaven and earth. Every time he stepped on stage, he felt his sons beside him. When he sang, he didn't just perform, he remembered. The songs that once celebrated life now carried something deeper, the understanding that love never truly leaves. His voice, still powerful and rich with soul, carried the weight of a father's devotion and the wisdom of survival. He said in an interview, "I used to think I sang for the crowd. Now I sing for them, for Gerald, for Sean. They're my harmony now." Those words revealed the quiet peace that had found him after years of anguish. Eddie began speaking openly about grief, faith, and resilience. He reminded others that pain doesn't end life, it transforms it. He used his story to comfort those who had lost, just as his music once did for strangers across generations. At 83, he no longer chases fame or applause. He lives in the grace of small moments, time with family, laughter with friends, and gratitude for the gift of another sunrise. He still performs, but the concerts are different now. They feel like prayers, like thank yous whispered into the universe. And when he walks off the stage, he looks upward, not in sorrow, but in peace. Because Eddie Levert has learned the most profound truth of all, that love, once given, never fades. It simply changes its song. And now, at 83, Eddie Levert stands as living proof that even in the deepest sorrow, love can still carry a melody. His voice may not soar like it once did, but every note he sings now holds something far more powerful: truth. The truth of a man who has walked through unimaginable loss and still found the courage to sing. He no longer performs for fame or applause. He performs for memory. Each song is a conversation with his sons. Each lyric a bridge between heaven and earth. When he closes his eyes on stage, you can almost see them there beside him, smiling, harmonizing, reminding him that love never really leaves. It just changes how it sounds. There's a peace in him now, the kind that only comes after years of pain and prayer. His story reminds us that even when life breaks your heart, it doesn't mean your song is over. It just means you have to learn to sing differently. Eddie Levert's tragedy is one of loss, yes, but it's also one of triumph. Because the measure of a man is not how loudly he sings when life is good, but how bravely he whispers when life takes everything away. And through it all, Eddie kept singing. So when you hear his voice again, listen closely. You're not just hearing a legend. You're hearing a father's love, echoing forever through every note he left behind. Thank you for watching. If Eddie's story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional stories of music, loss, and the power of love.